I never believed in the old stories, but now I wish I had. I'd been a ranger for nearly a decade, posted in national parks across the country, but none had tested me quite like this one. It was deep in the heart of an ancient forest, the kind where twisted trees blocked out the sun and mist clung to the ground like it had been cast by some forgotten hand. Locals had warned me when I took the job. The forest had secrets, they said, old ones. I laughed it off, until that night. I was halfway through my patrol, the usual quiet of the woods broken only by my boots crunching leaves and the occasional distant call of an owl. Then, suddenly, that familiar night melody stopped. No breeze stirred the trees, no crickets chirped, only silence, a cold, biting silence that wrapped around me, squeezing tighter with every step. Then I heard it. Whispers, faint and hollow, like voices carried from another time. At first, I thought it was the wind playing tricks, but the whispers grew louder, filling the empty spaces between trees, pressing against my ears with chilling clarity. I couldn't make out the words, but the tone was unmistakable. It was warning me, urging me to turn back. But I pressed on, convinced it was some prank or my imagination. As I ventured deeper, the temperature plummeted. My breath billowed out in thick, foggy clouds, even though it wasn't cold enough for that. A strange symbol caught my eye, etched into the bark of a towering pine tree, a spiral with jagged lines branching out from the center. I reached out, tracing it with my gloved finger. The bark was strangely warm, pulsating like a heartbeat beneath my touch. Pulling back, I noticed the same symbol on the next tree, and the next. It was leading me somewhere. I followed, each step carrying me further from the known trails into the heart of the forest where the trees grew denser, their branches closing overhead like skeletal hands. Shadows flickered just at the edge of my vision, darting behind tree trunks, slipping silently through the underbrush. I told myself it was animals, foxes maybe, or raccoons, but there was a strange fluidity to their movements, something wrong. Then came the laughter. It started softly, barely louder than the whispers, and grew louder, surrounding me, filling the air with an unnatural glee. It was the laugh of something ancient and mocking, something that saw me not as a threat, but as prey. "Are you lost, Ranger?" I spun around, flashlight trembling as I searched the trees. The voice was thin, reedy, like a distant echo, yet somehow it felt as close as my own breath. I swallowed hard, feeling the hairs rise on the back of my neck. It was just the forest, I told myself. Old forests have their tricks, and I'd just walked into one of them. But then, as I continued, a figure appeared in the path ahead. A man cloaked in shadows, his face hidden beneath a hood, yet his eyes glowed, catching the faint beam of my light. I took a step back, raising my radio. "Hello, this is Park Ranger Daniels. Who are you?" No answer. Just those glowing eyes, watching, unblinking. He raised a hand, pointing deeper into the forest. "You'll find what you seek, if you dare." Then, as suddenly as he'd appeared, he was gone, leaving behind only the soft sway of branches as if he'd been nothing more than smoke. I continued, though every fiber of my being screamed at me to turn back. The whispers grew louder, overlapping now, creating a cacophony of warnings, taunts, and names I didn't recognize. Names whispered with a strange reverence, as if each belonged to someone who had ventured here and never returned. My flashlight flickered, casting jagged shadows across the trees. That's when I saw them. Small, delicate figures, carved into the wood, each one marked with the same spiral symbol I'd seen earlier. Some looked like animals twisted into grotesque shapes, others, people. Faces twisted in silent screams, their eyes hollow and empty. One carving caught my eye, a figure in a ranger's uniform, hunched, with claw marks raking down its back. A chill ran through me, and I reached for my radio again, desperate for some connection, some reassurance that I wasn't alone. But the static crackled and hissed, drowning out any voice, leaving me stranded in the suffocating silence of the forest. I pushed forward, the laughter and whispers echoing around me, shifting, changing. They seemed to mimic the voices of people I knew, colleagues, family, even myself, all calling out in confusion and fear. Ahead, a fire burned low, its embers casting a sickly glow over the trees. An elder sat beside it, his face obscured by shadows, his hands wrinkled and rough, like the bark of the ancient trees. He didn't look up as I approached, only muttered to himself in a language I didn't recognize. But his words held weight, reverberating through the clearing like a drumbeat. "Why are you here?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. He looked up then, his eyes milky with age, yet sharp and piercing. "They've marked you, Ranger. The forest remembers." "What? What do you mean?" He simply stared, his gaze shifting to the trees, where shadows danced and figures loomed closer than before. "Leave, while you still can, or join the others." His words hung heavy in the air, laden with a warning I could feel in my bones. I stumbled back, glancing at the trees where the shadows seemed to swell, growing larger, their forms shifting, twisting into something almost human, yet wrong. My feet felt rooted, the ground softening beneath me as if trying to swallow me whole. With one last glance at the elder, I turned and ran, my flashlight bobbing, casting fractured beams of light that only made the shadows seem to stretch and follow. The laughter grew louder, echoing off the trees, until it became a roar, a cacophony of voices calling my name. I stumbled, feeling hands, small, bony hands, reach up from the earth, clawing at my legs, pulling me down. I kicked and fought, the world spinning as I fell to the forest floor, the soil damp and warm against my face. And then, silence. The hands were gone. The whispers faded, replaced by the gentle rustle of leaves, the distant call of an owl. I lay there, heart pounding, the world gradually settling back into familiar sounds. But as I got to my feet, brushing the dirt from my uniform, I felt a new weight in my pocket. Reaching in, I pulled out a small wooden carving, a figure in a ranger's uniform, hunched, claw marks raking down its back, eyes hollow and empty. The same figure I'd seen on the trees. I don't patrol that part of the forest anymore. I stick to the familiar paths, the places where the light breaks through, where birds sing and the ground feels solid beneath my feet. But sometimes, late at night, I hear them, the whispers, calling my name, laughing. And every time I reach into my pocket, the carving is still there, a silent reminder that the forest remembers. And it's waiting.